I found out as a professional designer that it didn't matter how good an idea actually was. If you didn't prepare the receiver, the person receiving the idea, it would bounce off. It's what I call the violence of the new. People would just go, no, I can't cope with that. I know I've asked for something new, but I can't cope with that idea. So preparing a runway for the idea, if you like, telling the story, setting it into context, became a very, very important part of it. A particularly significant example of that was when Seymourpowell won the Intercity 250 project, which is the big British rail project, before the network disappeared in this country. We were up against a lot of very professional, trained design businesses, and we were this bunch of punks who really didn't have that much experience. But the way that we won the business was by inspiring the individuals. And if you'd seen these individuals that were making the choice, this bunch of rather grey-looking middle-aged guys all sitting around a table, you'd think you couldn't inspire them. But my pitch to them was that all of the people that were going to pitch their ideas to them could design a good train. But I put the point that had they noticed that little boys didn't want to be train drivers anymore, and then tried to make the point that everybody would do a good train, but we'd give them one that little boys would want to be a train driver. Once they'd seen it, and we got the job, much to my amazement. The guy who'd set us up for the project said, well, you know why you got the job? And I said, well, I think it was maybe partly the inspirational story. He said, yes, it was, but you also realised that everybody sitting around that table was that little boy. So this emotional connection, this weaving in the context is hugely important to projecting your ideas and getting acceptance. Storytelling in another context, if you take something which is a gigantic leap of imagination, such as Virgin Galactic, Richard Branson's privateering rent-a-flight up into space that we're involved in. What had to happen early on in the project was to sell it. By that I mean people had to be inspired. It's an inspiring concept just to say, well, you're going to go into space, but to sell to the backers, sell to the people that were going to be talking about it in the future, to sell to the people that were going to be funding this. We resorted to something that the movie industry does quite a lot of at the moment called pre-visualization. Even while the design work was in a very early stage of evolution, we created a highly complex and very convincing digital movie. What you saw was actually real. You believed it was real. The effect that had on the backers and everybody else was enormous. It produced this enormous leap in belief. So people could seize it. It was no longer a dry piece of, oh yes, it could be like this. It was going to be like this. And it was almost as if it had already happened. And that's switched on millions of dollars worth of investment.